Hello, welcome to our Cirrus Avionics Modernization webinar. I'm Pete Schrader, Vice President of Technical Services. During this presentation, we'll show you the features and benefits of this Garmin Aviation package. A little bit of mechanics on the webinar. We're here to answer your questions. If you look on the right side of your screen, you'll see an orange arrow. If you can click on that, it'll drop down a question box. We'll be answering those questions as we go, and there'll be time at the end of the seminar. So get your questions in at any time, and we'll see if we can address those as we go. Now, before we start, I want to introduce you to Wisconsin Aviation, explain a little bit about who we are, our values, and our cultures, and our capabilities. The owner of Wisconsin Aviation, Jeff Baum, started Wisconsin Aviation in 1981. Jeff Baum started Wisconsin Aviation. He was a finance professor and had a passion for aviation. He took that passion and knowledge and led Wisconsin Aviation's growth. In 1987, we created Wisconsin Aviation Maintenance, and that's where I joined the team. In 1994, we purchased Four Lakes Aviation and began operations out of our Madison location. In '98, we opened up our avionics and interior department. In 2004, we became a Cirrus Service Center and a Platinum designation. In 2008, we built this hangar and moved avionics into our technical service complex. This summer, we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary. Now, we have 3 locations to serve you: Juneau, Watertown, which is our headquarters, and Madison, which is where we are now. Our avionics shop is located. We are a full-service FBO and offer full-service capabilities in all areas of general aviation. As a Platinum Cirrus Service Center, we can take care of all your maintenance, avionics, and interior needs. Madison is also our state capital. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have a beautiful FBO, easy access to the city. There's a restaurant inside the FBO. And this makes Wisconsin Aviation an easy place and a comfortable place to do business. We're a customer service oriented business, which is written in our mission statement. We want to be a business where our customers want to do work and where our teammates want to work. Our focus is on delivering the best possible customer service. We use this mission statement to guide us in daily decisions that we do. We often hear our teammates say, "Done right, on time, with a smile." Our avionics team consists of myself, Eric Semrel, he's our avionics manager, and Ryan Walsh, our avionics business administrator. Eric and Ryan will be the gentlemen that you talk to answer your questions, and they can help you with your needs. Our avionics shop has the capabilities to install modern avionics or maintain your legacy equipment. We're dealers for leading avionics manufacturers. With our experience, capabilities, and customer service focus, I'm confident that we can meet all your expectations. This is our Cirrus SR-22708 Echo Sierra. Our team put this avionics inside the aircraft, and when I was asking the pilots what they thought about it, they said, "Man, this is light years ahead." And here to show you why that is Jim Laster with Garmin Avionics. Morning, Jim.
Good morning. Thanks for having me coming up, Pete.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you. We've been working with Jim for 10 years, and Jim's enthusiasm about this product and the capabilities and his belief in Wisconsin Aviation as a Garmin dealer, and a Cirrus Service Center really was the catalyst to get this program going. Also presenting with us today is Dave Wagner. Morning, Dave.
Morning.
Dave's a commercial pilot, a CFII, an MEI, and one of our teammates that does the demos and also the delivery flight instruction. And these gentlemen will help you today to understand the capabilities and the features. Remember, if you have questions, put them in that question box, and we'll get to them when we can. Thanks, and enjoy the presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Pete.
Yep.
And good to have you, Jim.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So before I clog the hole here, you guys will be able to see the aircraft here in the background. They did an amazing, beautiful job. This is actually the airplane that they're using for demo purposes. That you have a couple hours in, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So appreciate you guys' time. We'll probably just be going through these, and as you have questions, they're going to go ahead and start answering them in the background. We're actually going to compile popular questions, and they're going to hand them to us because it looks like we have a really good group online. So we'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, guys. Very glad to have you this morning.
So I'm going to jump off on kind of what you're getting. Really, the upgrade to this is something that is been kind of in the coming for a while. The PFD is really what the pilots are going to touch and understand, and it's that 6-pack replacement. So for the SR22s and the SR20s that have the legacy 6-packs, or even some of the older non-Garmin PFDs that are out there, this is a phenomenal replacement. The big 10-inch display that you get a big wide view of what's going on. Obviously, synthetic vision helps a ton here, but you get your traditional tapes. And then the really cool thing is that HSI map. You're going to get a really, really good set of situational awareness because you're going to get an overview on your HSI for weather, for traffic, for everything that's in there. And then at that point, you'll have a really good overview just right in front of your face. So you'll notice here, with the synthetic vision, you get the runway is depicted there in 3D, and then you'll have the overview there as well. We have the airspeed and altimeter, everything still set up the way it is there. So it looks pretty familiar. It looks very similar to what the new Cirruses are rolling out with Perspective, and now the Perspective Plus. So next slide. Oh, you gotta click.
Is it clicked on our program here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for that.
So hold on one sec. We're gonna have to. You gotta click on this. There you go. Click on the slide. There we go. So you'll notice on the PFD that we can actually split screen this. So with the split screen, you'll notice that I can bring in an approach plate. So coming in here to Madison, Wisconsin, if you look at the weather today, it's not great. We actually flew in yesterday. We had to shoot an actual approach. Being able to bring that approach chart right in front of your face, where you have the minimums, you have the full overlay, geo-reference right on there. Your scan is real nice and tight. I know on some of the other aircraft type, you have to look down or across or over, and your scan gets really big. Here, it's nice and tight right in front of your face. Again, we have synthetic vision, and it really ties everything together.
One of the things I noticed while flying this particular chart, and I think a lot of you guys will find this interesting, is that the touchscreen is incredibly adaptive and a really fast response. So what you're seeing there on the left side is actually just a cutoff of what's there, but you just pinch and zoom that very naturally. You can slide around that plate in real time, just like it was a paper chart. Is how reactive it is. It's really nice. And as you see, there's the blue, there's the plane showing you as you're following the route there. So it is really quick, and it shows you great situational awareness.
Yeah, it's real easy to tell where you're at, and you're constantly ahead of the airplane when you have that version of situational awareness. Okay, and here you'll notice this is the MFD. So the multifunction display. Sorry guys. Nope, don't do that. I apologize. We're in the hangar. Obviously, Wi-Fi is a little slower here. So you'll notice on the multifunction display here that we can actually display EIS now. And on the EIS, you'll actually be able to see the new stuff that we just brought out to this platform. It will actually show percent power, which I know you're a big believer in percent power.
Absolutely. That's a great way to fly Cirrus profiles, and we like to keep everything as standard as possible. So that's an amazing gauge right there.
Yep. And then the other thing we brought on is the capability for dual alternator. So what's new to this is actually a software package that we got that allows us to show the dual alternators. It is an option. It's not standard. It's something you can option in. And then with the percent power in there, kind of brings home the feeling of that. You also notice that we can split screen this. And what's unique is now that we can do a multi-function display with EIS. And that is actually what's behind us here as well. Really a nice setup. Gives you great, again, situational awareness. If you want that full screen PFD, you can kick over the MFD and the charts over here. Just really depends on what your mission is for that time. All of the brains for that will come from the GTN. Oh, sorry, back up one. With the EIS, if you want a full screen EIS to get in for leaning or for takeoff, if you want a really good view, you're not stuck to that just like 10% screen. we can blow it out to where you'll get the full view of everything that's in there. You can actually look at each CHT and each EGT separately to get a good view of what's going on. You have a really great understanding. And then on top of that, all of this data is being recorded 1/4 quantity that's on there. So we have an extra amount of data can be activated. Let's touch on that.
Thanks for bearing with it.
Click in. All right, so the brains on this is going to be all coming out of our GTN. So we first talked about this, really everything's coming out of that 750. Ergonomically, it sits right where your right hand is. It's right here, we're all used to that. What's going to end up happening is all of your data, your flight plans, your COM one, your GPS one, nav one, everything's coming out of that primary unit. The 750 is really the heavy lifter there. It's going to do an amazing job for us there. The 650 is not just an ATIS getter. It's going to be a full-blown another MFD, another COM, another nav. And the really cool thing is we have software coming that we're going to be able to control both the GTNs from the number one 750, which is ideal. So another thing you'll notice here is the blue ring that you see that's surrounded there with the dash line that's heading to that airport is new to the GTN XI series, as we've introduced new GTNs recently with new brighter displays, new processors, and that's a new feature there for your glide range and where your nearest airport is.
That's fantastic situational awareness too, because I know on ForeFlight I'm kind of always using that glide ring to kind of kind of like a monkey swing from tree to tree, or as you're flying along airport to airport or landing spot to landing spot, and knowing exactly the nearest airport to you with a glide range is just amazing awareness, accounting for wind. That's a great feature. I'm super pumped about that.
Yep. One of the great points you bring up is with the iPads on board that everyone has, you really don't need them as much when you have this package. You really have it on board as a backup more than anything else, or using it as a data mule. So that's just another great benefit for us as we go through there. Now let's talk to how we fly the airplane. So the servo for the GFC 500 is the GSC 28, which you see there, and then the controller there is our GNC. So what's really cool is that you get a brand new autopilot with servos. Those servos are not just your everyday run-of-the-mill servos. They're actually smart servos. What that means is they're in constant conversation with our avionics package on a constant loop where we're talking and giving feedback. So in the old school, the old school autopilots, that the flight director would be reading what the attitude was doing, send a pulse to the servo, it would make a correction. We'd have to read it, see what happens, send another pulse. This constant communication. Here, we're constantly making small corrections. That makes the airplane fly so much tighter. That's where you get the flying on rails feeling. We can do some aggressive parabolic level offs as well from climb and descent. And then we also have a really great safety net around you, which is our envelope protection, which we won't allow you to stall the airplane or won't allow you to overbank it. And then in the worst case scenario, if you get completely, inadvertent IMC and you're really disoriented, you have an out with the level button, with the blue button. So
yes, this is where the system is, as you get slow on airspeed, telling you audibly airspeed, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal, and they are all working together. And you're going to kind of get the hint that all of these things really tie in together beautifully, and you really start getting a full integrated cockpit now. And the owner experience is amazing when it's all tied together. And that controller may look familiar to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right out of the perspective, basically.
Yeah.
It has an additional button than I've seen. I have some of the newer ones have it, but that track button, I'm excited to see that on there.
Yeah, actually, they just recently taught us how to use that effectively. And when you would use track is like if you have a large wind, let's say you're flying visually and you want to fly up the left side of, let's say, a lake, you just pile, or maybe trying to skirt just outside of a D airspace, you line up what the track is just on there. The winds can change dramatically and you will just track right on that line. So really cool that we can do some more advanced features like that. And it's not just an IFR autopilot. We can use it in VFR conditions. I know there's a lot of Cirrus pilots out there. I got a good friend, Mike Berryhill, that works for Cirrus, is one of the biggest advocates for this and really just loves flying and uses the airplane VFR quite a bit. So appreciate that. So what do we talk about when we talk about backups? So let's start going through our what if scenarios, right? So you'll notice first off, with this installation, our backup that we have designated as a GI-275. So it's a new product for Garmin, but the cool part is we have to spend money on the backup. We have to bring it on board. It's not just a backup. We can actually slide through those displays. It can become a dedicated traffic page. It can be a multi-function display. You can move it to whatever you really need, gives you another display to dump something, and it can free up one of your other displays, which is really unique for the GI-275, and the integration's in here. In the really rare case that you may lose your PFD, it would automatically revert back to the backup, and we're good to go there. Also, if you were to lose the PFD, the autopilot actually stays engaged. So the GI-275 is actually the control end back to the GFC 500 as well. And really interesting with this, it's tied both ways. So the pilot in normal operations, you're really just going to manipulate the PFD, and then your barrel will automatically set to both. All your airspeeds are set to both. So again, in that really unlikely case you lost your PFD, your airspeeds are set, your heading bug was still set. You don't have to remember what heading they gave you, it's set. If you were climbing out, your pre-selected altitude was preset. So it really is that great safety net back there, and the autopilot's still engaged.
Yeah.
So after we have to get a new pilot seat, if that were to happen, then I would still have an airplane going off and being in a good position. To the left of it, you'll notice that there's another controller that looks like an autopilot controller. That's actually for our friends that fly brand A's autopilot.
Oh.
And for the DFC-90, that actually works beautifully with our TXI displays. And we actually had some integration in there for the DFC-90. So our friends out there that have the DFC-90s retrofitted, don't worry, you still qualify for all of this. And eventually when you have to have significant autopilot repairs or costs, that's when the GFC 500 would just slide right back in. Not slide in, but it would be able to go back in that same hole. So that's kind of the complete picture for it of what you saw when we first started. So let's go through some questions.
Yeah, key features. So as I've flown this and seen it come in, I have some pretty big highlights. Things that I think would benefit the user highly. The big thing I think is system integration, excuse me. And so some of these are videos I should be queuing up right now. But what you'll see in this video shot, we did a flight, and everything I'm doing, let's say I'm editing something on this 650 down there at the bottom, it's automatically transferring that data up to the PFD, given my nav course or the flight plan changes all pass right through. Is it playing on your screen, guys?
Just click the.
Sorry, I give it one more click.
Bill, you're gonna.
Bill, maybe click it for me. Could you just hit the right arrow for me?
You're gonna have to.
So anyway, the system really just really well talks to everything, and if you were to have a failure, the system is going to just kind of leave off wherever you left with whatever you're left with, right? And so we do have backup batteries. The whole system kind of self-sustains on multiple levels. But if I lose something here, all my data is transferred over. That 275 is constantly kind of storing the memory from what I programmed elsewhere. And
I believe we're muted. Is it muted? Okay.
We're good.
All right. So
tell me a little bit more about some of the integration. It's kind of my big question. So
yeah,
flight streams on there, a lot of cool things. So.
Yeah. So really, what the cool part is, HSDB is what's tying this whole thing. So we go from our Ethernet essentially is running from TXI to TXI to GTNs to GFC. That's all running on a high-speed data bus, which essentially is Ethernets. Our friends that are flying the older Cirruses that have the steam gauges and the 430s, those are running on RS-232 and 429.
So they're on dial-up.
Yeah, exactly. So we're on high-speed Wi-Fi, they're on dial-up. And that's why we can do all of the super awesome new stuff that we have here. And our friends running the 430s are really limited on what's going on, which isn't bandwidth. So with all that connected, that's that live stream. If you put a flight stream 510 in there, we can put that live stream back out into our iPads. And it works with ForeFlight or with Garmin Pilot. So the coolest part is I fly Garmin Pilot, you fly ForeFlight. We're both happy, right? We can both do it in the same cockpit. We can still communicate to it. We can tie 3 devices to it. I know I personally carry an iPhone and an iPad. Those are both going to be able to connect. I file my flight plans with my phone. I can push the full flight plan in there, but when I'm navigating on with the bigger display, then I can live stream all of my EIS and all that information is coming right out because it's all on the HSDB lines. And speaking of live streaming, we can actually take all of that data that's running in there once per second. It's coming to my iPad, and I can rewind in my current flight. I can look in past flights, and then once my iPad touches the Wi-Fi, Garmin Pilot's going to load all of that to the cloud, and then save it in a Fly Garmin account. And there's no cost for that. We just do the cloud savings for you. Why this is important. Let's say we're leaving 36-degree overcast, snowy Wisconsin today. We're heading to Naples. And halfway down there, I feel like cylinders are acting a little weird. I can call Pete here with an amazing maintenance job that knows all the Cirruses really well. I can have him log into my account and review all of my engine data for the last however long I've had this installed. And they can go back and look at each cylinder temperature once per second for every flight. So they can go back in and be like, yeah, it looks like in the last flight, you're having something weird here. We need to take a look at that. And then we have a better idea when we get into the shop what we're looking at, right? And all of that's because of the integration with HSDB. And that's the benefit of when you get out of the 430 and 530s and into the GTNs and TXIs, all that capability comes in.
So it sounds like a lot less money in diagnosing things is what it sounds like.
I wouldn't go quite that far, but it definitely gives us a head start.
Definitely helps you as you're figuring out what's going on with things as you're going. That brings us actually to the next thing I wanted to kind of highlight and talk to you about, and that is the easy data entry. Here I am in the cockpit, and I've got my IFR flight plan. We actually flew IFR from Watertown. I'm sorry, this is a flight from Milwaukee, Madison. And I just punched the send a panel button, and it was ready for me as soon as I was there. So I just hit the message button, add this flight plan, and it popped in as active. So without any duplicating anything, it just was ready to go. And even on the active leg that my iPad had set. So I thought that was really fantastic. And that's all something that you can edit there. And there's other ways to enter on the 750. What other ways do we have entering a flight plan?
So the cool part is it's a touchscreen, but it also says a knob. So I've flown hundreds of hours of these units, and I've been in really rough turbulence. It is not fun, but there's a bottom mounted bezel where you just hold it and then you can type. If it's worse than that, you could still do 80% of the work with the knob itself. You could just roll in direct to, use the buttons that are on there, and you can still do it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. If you feel like you want to do comm changes with a knob, go for it. If it's nice and smooth, type in on the display. I'd say less than 1% of the time, I can't use the touchscreen. So, and then to your point, we can do all of the pre-flighting on there. And what the cool part is with that, I think we both fly in the Midwest. Flying into Omaha, there's an intersection called Beef, 3 E's. Who knows, right? Going out of Chicago, you're going to get that big departure out of there with a carrot intersection, which has like 19 R's in it. Not knowing how to spell that stuff and without having to go through it, there creates a issue where pilots can misenter something. Or if you type something in and the waypoint's out in Afghanistan, obviously it's not going to be good. And that removes me from the problem, which is awesome. And it can just automatically load all of them. They're spelled correctly and just done correctly.
And the moment I'm editing this stuff into the flight plan, I got my MFD up here, which is graphically showing me what it looks like as I'm doing that.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty amazing. That was really exciting.
And if you have degenerate friends like I do that want to go direct to Vegas, you don't have to accept it. The pilot has to accept it. They can't be in just control of it. The pilot still has control of what's going on.
So you still have to hit that message and accept flight plan, and it'll throw in there. You can't just, So then I think it brings us to the next thing, and that is engine information. This is something that, as I was hopping this avionics suite, I was really hopeful, because I do find, the way Perspective had it laid out was really great, having that display of the information on the engine, and that percent power, the ability to lean, and all that. So that's something that kind of came in. I was excited for seeing that here. For those of us kind of upgrading some more ancient avionics, this is really state of the art. So here we can see the engine information system all right up there on the MFD. So you mentioned there's some neat features with being able to download that stuff. Here we have it right on the screen. Lots of fantastic situational awareness.
Yep, and it's as big as you need it when you want it that big. And when we're set up and leaned out and we got that long 2-3 hour leg, just minimize it back down to there. It is your primary engine gauges. It is all you need. You'll actually be able to do fuel quantity on here. The guys at Wisconsin Aviation are really intuitive, and they understand that we're moving things up here. We can actually option in, let's say, a USB charger down here. So we can open up space down on the panel for that, which is awesome. So again, Wisconsin's kind of out in front, innovating with this installation, and has done a really good job with it. So jump into the next one here.
Yeah, absolutely. doesn't get reception till right there. The next one I want to kind of mention is synthetic vision. We'll see some kind of cool things with this, but I love synthetic vision. It gives you that sense of what's going on outside when you're in the soup. So just yesterday I was flying in IMC conditions right in here to Madison, and as I'm shooting this approach, I can glance up and on the synthetic vision actually see the runway that I'm about to land on, even though I can't see it yet. And so here's kind of the video up there kind of shows as we were actually flying into Watertown. This is a VFR flight on this particular video. And, you know, it shows the airport right there in the middle of the screen as you're approaching it. And sure enough, you know, there it is. So that's pretty neat. I like the synthetic vision. That's both on the MF or the PFD here on the left and down there on the 275 that's installed. So that's neat. What kind of things do you see exciting about that?
So one of the things that really I like a lot with this is more than just a pretty picture is our flight path marker. That thing is a home run. So that actually will tell you exactly where the airplane's trending. So crosswind landings were always a challenge for me when I was doing my training, even as a professional pilot in the old school methods of take a 10-degree head. And we got a lot going on. We're shooting actual approaches. So with that, all I do is take the green path marker, put it at the end of the runway, make sure I'm on speed. If I'm on speed, I'm going to be at the numbers on speed. It just is what it is. So that it's a lot less to manage, a lot easier to keep the scan tighter. Also, if you're out doing maneuvers, and let's say you start a big bank through a VFR and you're turning out, if you see that green path marker go below the horizon, you're going to descend, or if it's above, you're going to climb. And if you keep the line through the center of that path marker, you will keep your altitude. So it makes you very precise as a pilot. So when I do our checkouts in this, we have to do check rides every 6 months. And what I do is they tell me, do me a 360, 60-degree turn to the right. You bank in there. All I have to do is keep that green path line through the white line, and I won't lose one foot of airspeed or of altitude. So it's just an amazing tool that gives you reality of what we're doing. And again, that situational awareness just bumps way up. And you're not flying one thing with this system. It's when it all works together. It's all amazing what's going on, and you really get to understand what's going on.
Absolutely. Brings us to our next kind of key feature as hopping into the airplane, and that is backups. And so what you'll see here in this clip is what happens if something fails. As configurable by how you get the installation. Here we pulled the circuit breakers for PFD, and in this particular installation, the fail down brought us right to 275. So there's no loss of attitude information, and this 275 has a backup battery in it.
Yep, it's got a 30-minute backup battery. The really cool part about this is, I would say this is a pretty standard configuration, but if you're a belts and suspenders kind of a guy, all we have to do is add a secondary AHRS, and in this case, your PFD would have just moved over to the MFD, and then would have kept running, and you still had a 275. So you would have to have a very catastrophic failure to be out there. So if you're the guy that likes a backup to the backup, we can do that, and that's now available here as well. So, and in this case, if you noticed, the PFD went away, the MFD stayed on, the GTN stayed on. We can still talk to everybody, still have a map, still have charts, still have weather, I still have a transponder, still have a big multifunction display, and my iPod's still engaged. So
it's not a bad day. So
yeah, right. One of the worst things that happen to pilots is you lose your PFD. In this system, it's really not that bad. Yeah, it's stressful, but it's not bad. It's not going to put you in a bad place. It didn't all go black on you. The way that would happen would be if we had a complete alternator and battery failure. In that case, the 275 would be what we have. We do have a backup battery. That is a bad day. Hopefully that's where we're going to pull out our application. We're going to use Garmin Pilot or Full Flight to get us direct to, and then we would use this to get us with our airspeed, our heading, and our altitude.
So there's a way on the 275 possibly to navigate somewhere with that?
Yeah, if you press and hold down that button, we can actually do direct to at nearest airport as well. So, and it'll give you a heading to that. So we have outs for you all the way down the line. And again, I like to joke about the belts and suspenders, but when you're actually flying IFR, I want to be as safe as possible, right? And especially up in the Midwest, upper Midwest, or down where you're going to have real weather, that's when you want the system.
It's awesome. Yeah, I really liked it. And there's no red button either saying, all right, switch all my things over here. Now I need the attitude indicator. That's just because it automatically knows.
Correct. Yep, it knows the failure.
So it knows you've failed. It knows information is not being displayed here. And it throws your attitude indicator up on your MFD if you've got that double AHRS installed. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was neat. Now this is, we're just having some fun, exceeding our the designed banks and so on. So here we are getting into unusual attitudes, and the system, autopilot is not engaged. I'm just having fun. And you can see a double bars up there at the 45-degree marker. That can be set. As soon as I exceed that, and sorry, my knuckles are getting in the way here, but as you can see that, it automatically threw me back to about 20 degrees bank. And with enough force that it woke me up. It was like, you know, the autopilot kicked me back. It says, you don't belong there. Obviously, for steep turns, you can go just to the settings page and disable that stability, but that's by default, that's on.
Mhm.
I thought that was really neat.
It's on if the autopilot's on or not. So if the autopilot's engaged or not, that's on. The reason why that's important is a lot of guys like to have the autopilot on, especially flying VFR, until you get into the airport environment, kick the autopilot off, and then we're hand flying in there. Well, that's kind of when we need the help, because I've been guilty of this where you maybe have lined up on the wrong runway, or there's something wrong, or you've gone to that, you're making that really bad turn that we all know. When you're low and slow, you don't want to crank. If you get the autopilot popping you, it's better to get resituated, have an understanding that you're coming up against the envelope of that airplane. And at the same time, if you're busy in, like, let's say an unusual airport and there's a lot going on and you're leaning back and your airspeed's coming down, we're going to start yelling at you, airspeed, airspeed. So you bring your eyes back down. And it doesn't matter if the autopilot's on or off. So it's really, really just, again, that safety net around you. The Cirrus life and the Cirrus perspective, and the guys have done such an amazing job of making aviation safe. And I think we're continuing that in the retrofit market. And we're taking those ideas and saying, hey, if you get this system installed, you're going to have a big safety net around you that'll be able to help you on multiple ways. And I'm not saying that it's going to, you know, it's not going to change the airplane in any way, but it'll change your confidence in what you have. Another really cool part with this is a couple go round. When was the last time you practiced an actual couples go round?
Well, actually with this airplane, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just to be able to shove that, you know, with the new avionics here, and actually never before. But just to be able to shove the power in, and the toga button, which was aftermarket install with this system, I just hit it with the thumb as I'm full throttle there. The system pitched up, auto sequenced the missed approach, and that was really neat.
So I will say, I don't, if I'm shooting approach to minimums, I'm not thinking this is a good time for training and doing a go around. I want to land the airplane. So if we do this, I'm usually a 500-foot guy where I'm not going to shoot approaches down under 500 feet. But if there are cases where the weather's solid and it's just foggy and I have this capability on board, I might go ahead and take a peek all the way down to the decision height just based on the fact that I don't have a couple go around. So as a pilot, I'll come all the way down to the DH, hit the button, full go around, it stays coupled. In the Cirrus, it's power, flaps up. And then you sit there and be a passenger for a little bit because it's going to pitch up, it's going to automatically sequence. And here we're going to go up to 3,600 feet, right turn to the VOR out here. It's going to enter the hold for you. And it gives the pilot time to assess, how close was I? You know, like what did I see anything? Did my passenger see anything? Or was I just so focused in here, I missed the rabbits or whatever? Or I didn't see anything. We're going to have to pick an alternate. That gives you the time to go find your alternate, right? And in this system, if you option the weather, you have a great view of what the METARs are around you. You can be in the hold and not stressed out on trying to figure out what's available. Everything's still working, and we're doing the heavy lifting of flying the airplane.
Yeah. I know as an instructor, the best way to disorient someone, spatial disorientation, is to get them saturated mentally and then distract them with looking around, you know, drop the pencil and bam, they're gone. And so to have something that there's no period where you are hand flying, where the thing just takes it right off to where you're going, that's really exciting. Yep. It doesn't negate the need for your pilot training that you know, practice this and get proficient by all means. Flying everything by hand, you know, I'm a firm believer you should never set sail unless you're capable of that. But just to have that backup, someone have your back while you're executing all this workload, is pretty neat.
Yep.
So brings us kind of the last one, and that is kind of the owner experience, what it's like kind of flying with the Garmin products. And like, so let's say, you know, my brother, for example, just installed a system almost identical to the one we have here. Very excited about all it's capable of, but is that kind of it? Like, where is this going to just stay this system? Like G1000, you buy the G1000 system and it's what you've got. Is that different than this?
Good question. So I know the guys in the market for this are probably comparing pre-Perspective airplanes versus Perspective. Now, our friends at Cirrus did an amazing job with Perspective Plus. This is not Perspective Plus. This is something different. The Perspective Plus airplanes, you're getting a lot more with that aircraft. So we're not really comparing to the new airplanes that are offline, but we might be comparing to its older brother, the one that are early Perspective airplanes.
Sure.
So this is kind of where we're really in tow there. But the cool part is, with Garmin, we come out with software upgrades every year in the summertime. Around here in Wisconsin, there's this big show. So around then, we usually bring out these really cool software packages. And the installation that you do here, this will be the top of the line products for the foreseeable future. I mean, years and years and years. So you have a ton of development coming to these products coming down the line. So this is good money to spend now because you're going to have an ownership experience of multiple years, or it's just going to get better. And the more you bring in, if you have a GFC 500, your integration comes way up. Software is going to keep coming that way, and we're going to really tighten that up. Well, in the old days, if you have, let's say, one of the Aviation airplanes in a 430, you had to go to 2 different places to download databases. You had to have 2 different subscriptions. It wasn't fun. Now, I can do the entire aircraft with 1 subscription to me. The coolest part, I can handle it all wirelessly. So with that FlightStream 510 and Garmin Pilot, we can actually call home every night, say, hey, we have databases for the airplane. It'll automatically download on the iPad. When you get on the airplane, the iPad gets in there and you turn on, the iPad and the FlightStream will communicate and say, I have databases for you. Just like your phone connects in your car when you turn it on, same exact thing. It's going to do the handoff and say, you have databases, do you want to download? Yes. It'll throw it in standby. On your next leg, the 750 will push across our Ethernet to all the displays, all the databases. You don't have to deal with the cards anymore. That's awesome. That's an hour every month that you got to go find your cards, try not to lose them, do all sorts of stuff. Don't worry about it.
It's fascinating too, because I actually, for the G1000 setup, I wrote like an 8-page manual to some of my friends that had the setups. And here's how you go through. This is what card you put in first and all that. And it's exciting that you can just have it electronically, wirelessly, pass it off to the FlightStream, and it passes it everywhere else.
Absolutely. You can take those 8 pages and just burn them.
Yep.
So it's really kind of a nice deal there. The other really cool thing is all that software I was talking about, it's actually free from Garmin. What I would suggest is set up an experience with, or set up a time for Wisconsin Aviation, either during your annual or maybe once a year. I'd say preferably in the fall because you're going to get all the new updates, to come in and just get an upgrade for all of the systems. And you'll get little things like for instance, GTNs in the past have gotten reverse frequency lookups. The glide range rings in here were software updates that were really nice. They're free from Garmin. Obviously, Wisconsin's going to have to charge labor hours for the guys to come do it, but that's a low cost for what you're getting out of it. So it's a really cool experience. And again, the 1-packs with Garmin databases, so we really kind of have you covered. Another really cool thing is we actually have you beyond that. So we have a lot of our friends in the Cirrus life that want to go to the Bahamas. We can actually handle our EAPAs. So we now own flightplan.com, and with flightplan.com, we do EAPAs handling, which is awesome because Garmin Pilot and FlightPlan are integrated. And we can file the flight plan through EAPAs on Garmin Pilot, and they'll do all the handling for you. So if you ever wanted to fly to the Bahamas, we take a big chunk of it, that's the scary part, and just do it for you. And it's just a nice experience. If you want to know more about that, just ask the questions and I can send you info on it. The Bahamas sound real nice when it's 36 degrees.
Oh, it sounds beautiful right now. I think I was driving here through freezing pellets, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Ice pellets. Well, that's really exciting. So I think that brings us to the next thing, is that if you guys are wanting to actually experience this hands-on, I'll be around and able to fly this with you. If you want to get your hands on this system, it is available that you can get your hands on and demo. It's pretty fun to hop in, see the actual integration. So definitely come out and experience it yourself. But that leads us to the next thing, that is our questions. So we've got Kyle, a couple others here. We've got one question came in, and that is, can the PFD and MFD operate as backups for one another in case of malfunction? So we touched on that at the beginning a little bit, but let's go a little bit more deeper into
Yeah, so what it is you can see in this airplane here, we have the PFD and the MFD set up in the back. And what would happen is if we lost that PFD, the MFD with the secondary AHRS would actually automatically kick over. So yes, the answer is yes. What the question usually, I think you kind of tapped on it, where the Cirrus guys are used to the red button. There's no red button, it's automatic. So I think that might be where the question came from, is they're used to Perspective having that red button. They don't see it in there. Well, you don't need it. So we're going to do it automatically for you. In the very rare case that you would need to do that, it would automatically happen. If for whatever reason you felt like that wasn't a big deal to you, you fly mainly VFR, the GI-275 is still there, still have a backup. So at the end of the day, we're golden and we're good with that one. Let's see the next question. How does the G500 TXI system differ from Garmin Perspective? Great question. Really, at the end of the day, what you have to understand is our friends at Cirrus are doing a phenomenal job of being at the bleeding edge of technology. They're phenomenal partners of ours. They helped certify Autoland. They're wildly in front of a lot of our systems, our technologies, and Perspective is a little bit older. Perspective Plus is what they're on right now, and there is a difference. That is similar to the G1000 NXI. They have a ton of the same things we're talking about. They can do in this Plus. So with Perspective to TXI, we can actually do quite a bit of things that Perspective could not do, i.e. the HSI map, the flight stream 510s, the advanced 345 with target trend and terminal traffic. A lot of that integration is coming. And then unfortunately, with that Cirrus that you're looking at, if you're out shopping for new airplanes and you're looking at the Perspective, the best advice I can give you is find the airplane you want and then expect it to never change, because that G1000 is pretty baked. And if we come out with some wildly cool stuff in, let's say, 3 months, you're going to want that stuff and it won't go to that airplane because it's already TC'd with that in there. We don't own that. It's Cirrus owned TC at that point. Most likely you'll find that really cool stuff in the Perspective Plus, which is awesome. But then with the aftermarket stuff, if you found that older steam gauge or maybe that Aviation airplane, if you roll with us, you're on our update train. So you're at the bleeding edge just because we are. And that's kind of how it is. So how does it differ? It's a touchscreen and you're on our path as far as innovation. And the Perspective is awesome. It's rock solid. It was absolutely the best. And now they've surpassed that with Perspective Plus.
Absolutely. Yeah, go to the next one. So this is for those that may already have GFC. The question came in.
DFC9.
Sorry, DFC9. I already have a DFC90 autopilot. Is it supported by the G500 TXI auto, or the G500 TXI?
Awesome question. So our friends, I know there's been a lot that have upgraded to the DFC90s. That's fine, and we're supportive of it. Actually, I've heard reports that we fly it pretty well. So we had an installation that happened early on with the DFC90 up in the Northeast, and rave reviews on it, and it works really well. The GCU that you saw in here is actually a big part of that. It does a lot of the control for the TXI in there as well. So if you were to have DFC90 invested, we're still capable of having our TXIs, our GTNs, all that great data. You just have the DFC90 on board. It's fine, not a problem. You have legacy third-party servos on board, and what I would just say is, as you go through this, just in the back of your mind, know there'll be a day that you're probably going to have to go either service or rehaul or go through that. That's a time when you want to get the quote from Wisconsin Aviation on with the GFC 500, because instead of spending money on old servos, it'd be better just to upgrade to the new GFC 500 and complete the integration.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, I know, just touching on that, this is a pitch attitude based autopilot, which I've noticed inherently just makes it more stable. When it levels off, like I think you mentioned a parabolic prediction of just how to level it off so you're not capturing and re-intercepting. And I thought that was really pretty neat. So definitely cool autopilot among many of the other features. I love flying that. Another question came in, is the synthetic vision display real time, or is there a delay in the representation of the aircraft position? And I'll just take that myself if you don't mind, because having flown it, I did not notice any delay whatsoever. It's like real time. As much time as it takes you from looking inside to looking outside, if you can perceive that bank difference on your attitude indicator here versus in the outside world, then you might notice something, but most of us wouldn't have any clue. And so it seems extremely real time, right up to date. So
the best way to test that is when traditionally pilots, when we're getting down near the flare, our eyes are outside. We don't care what's going on here anymore. If you're a pilot in the right seat, it's fun to watch the center line rip by right as you over the end of the runway, and it's almost spot on as it goes right by. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty real time, way more than than you would ever notice. So
I actually had a passenger ask me while I was flying a similar setup of synthetic vision. Is it looking outside, like, because the actual threshold, the runway passed, right when the synthetic vision runway threshold passed, it was pretty neat. So
yeah, the real answer to that question is we have a really good database, and the FAA does a really good job of marking out where those are located, and that's just integrated into the map, and that's how we do it. So really cool technology. The wicked smart guys at Garmin did all the math to put that together, and it just works. So awesome.
awesome. And the next question, if the G500 TXI system records my flight data, how is that information kept secure to protect my privacy?
One of my favorite questions. So I get this question a lot, sounds cool that I have all the data offloading, but who owns it? Where's it going? What's happening to it? Are you sending it to my engine provider? You know, if you buy a new engine and there's warranty, they don't want that, like, they just want to make sure that they're covered. The reality is it is going to a secure server in Garmin that you only have access to, and the only one that would ever look at the data is anyone that you give the password and username to. So I suggest, usually if you have a great working relationship with your mechanic or your maintenance shop or an FBO like Wisconsin Aviation, I would probably share my username. I don't really care personally, but if you do, you can just take screenshots of what you want to share and send them on, or if you trust and feel like there's a good proper thing there, and go let them go look at the data, that's there for you. If you don't want to share it, you don't have to. If you don't want it to upload, you have that option. You could turn it off inside the Garmin Pilot, and it would turn it off. I get it. I fully understand. I've had customers that have gone out of their way to protect their end numbers and protect where they're going, and I understand privacy. That's actually one of the best parts of GA. We can move around kind of in anonymity and be fine. And we take privacy extremely, extremely important. This is actually part of the reason why we don't hand all this data over to our friends at ForeFlight, because then they would have access to these servers, and then we can't control what they do with the data. So that's why all of this is sectioned off. And one of the points that we didn't bring up was, we understand there's a lot of people flying with ForeFlight. I'm not asking you to change navigational apps or where you file with.
Yeah.
A really good way to look at Garmin Pilot is data loader. For $150 a year, you can do wireless updates, and you can do all your data logging and have all that information in there. Then you're going to realize that the app looks exactly like the GTNs and the TXIs. You're going to already know how to use it. Mm-hmm. So eventually you might trickle over, but I really don't sell on that side. I really lean on, let it do its data logging, right? Yeah. If you know ForeFlight and you understand it, I get it. I'm an Apple guy. I would never take an Android phone. I get it. And it's the same exact thing. But at the reality, if we have Garmin Pilot on board, we're opening up a ton of additional integration. So that's it. It looks like we're still getting pretty good questions in there. We're going to end the webinar for time's sake. However, keep typing the questions in. We have guys in the background that should be answering them. And then anything that's unanswered or needs more of a detailed answer, we're going to follow up with you with a personal email. So keep the questions coming, and we'll go from there. And thank you guys so much for being with us for the 50 minutes today.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, and actually, this is probably the big one. For quotes and upgrade questions, please reach out to the avionics team here between Ryan and David. Eric and Ryan. They'll be able to help you out here. There's the phone number. These guys are the right guys. If you live anywhere in the central US, from Texas to Ohio to Minneapolis, this is the place to bring the Cirrus. They are intimate with it. They've done their own airplane. They're not learning on your airplane. They've done the autopilot. They've done it all. I'd be willing to bet they're probably the first one to do the GFC 500 integration. They're not going to learn on you. They've done it themselves, and they've been in Cirrus's world forever. So this is the right place. And we have awesome instructors like this to do the demo rides. And if you're thinking about it, find a way to get to Madison to go take a demo ride. It will absolutely blow you away. And again, you don't need to do the full caboodle. You can do whatever fits in your budget. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much, and have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us again.